Well, hello there. Thank you for joining me for this week's edition of Telile 24/7. I'm your host, Adam Cooke, and we once again have a jam-packed show for you this week. Later on in the program, I'll speak to Guysborough-Tracadie MLA and Nova Scotia's Minister of Agriculture, Greg Morrow. And we'll also sit down with the first declared candidate for the Nova Scotia Liberal leadership race, Preston MLA Angela Simmonds. We'll have a couple of updates from Richmond Municipal Council, including such issues as the installation of French-English signs around the county and what should be done in terms of the emergency funding request from the Kingston Medical Clinic in Lordways. In just a few moments, I'll take you to Port Hawkesbury, where different developments are happening in terms of making the roads and streets safer for bicycle users, pedestrians, and drivers heading through the road diet on Reeves Street. But we begin with the COVID-19 pandemic, and specifically how municipal governments are trying to create vaccination policies for their employees. We're going to hear from the people in the town of Port Hawkesbury in just a moment, but first, let's take you to the latest regular monthly meeting of Richmond Municipal Council and see how the discussion on vaccination policies for municipal employees is still continuing and will likely do so for the next couple of weeks.
With things changing, I hope we don't miss the opportunity that somebody who is unvaccinated applies for or looks to apply for a position that we can't take. And I don't know. I guess we're putting the cart before the horse at this stage. But again, I would ask: are we? It seems like with everybody pulling back in the province, changing their aspect of people don't have to get vaccinated now, leads to the question of do we really want to implement that policy?
Yeah, just to be clear, Councillor Dignan, we're only giving notice of this. This doesn't make it enforced. There still has to be second reading. That's why the discussion we had was thinking it's just as well to go through with this on the off chance that anything changes, and then we can decide not to proceed with it on second reading if we feel it's not appropriate at that time. But if we decided not to now and something did change, it would put us back to the starting point.
Yeah, and I agree, Councillor Sampson, that for me, it's always been about legal ramifications here and legal issues for me. So if we do this, right now, as of today, you don't have to show proof of vaccination, right? So anybody that is willing to apply for a job or wants to apply for a job, or any of our current staff that's unvaccinated at the moment, they have 60 days to comply, right? So
no, they would have the 60 days from when it becomes a policy, not from
that's
now.
What I mean. So the more we drag this on, like you say, the more it gives them time, when it comes to adopting it in the future, right? So like you say, things can change. They've changed pretty drastically in the last week and a half or so, and they can take another change, another, turn for the worse, or whatever, right? So for me, yeah, let's put it on to the next regular council meeting, and then we'll go from there.
So, Richmond County councillors will revisit their planned vaccination policy at their next regular meeting on March 21st. Coincidentally, that's the same day that all restrictions are to be lifted in Nova Scotia and the provincial state of emergency ended. 24 hours after Richmond councillors discussed the vaccination issue at their latest regular meeting, the topic also took up some time at Tuesday night's council session in Port Hawkesbury. Deputy Mayor Jason Aucoin is wondering if the town should consider loosening its own employee vaccination policy or even dropping it altogether. The Deputy Mayor pointed out that the town is soon going to start hiring summer students and other temporary workers, and Aucoin suggested that the process could be hampered by Port Hawkesbury's current insistence that all municipal employees must be double vaccinated. As it turned out, the Deputy Mayor had pretty good timing in terms of bringing up that issue. Port Hawkesbury CAO Terry Doyle told the meeting on Tuesday night that he's actually discussing the issue the following day in a conference call with the Nova Scotia wing of the Association of Municipal Administrators. The CAO pledged to bring information from that meeting back to Council on March 15th, when Port Hawkesbury is scheduled to hold its next Committee of the Whole meeting. Doyle also pledged to speak to officials with the Provincial Department of Municipal Affairs on whether the town should respond to the lifting of restrictions on March 21st by holding full public council meetings or hybrid gatherings through the rest of the spring. In response to a question from Deputy Mayor Aucoin on this specific issue, Mayor Brenda Chisholm-Beaton said that council and staff would want to ensure that there's still a chance for councillors and the general public to attend a meeting virtually. But at the same time, the mayor added that Port Hawkesbury Council wants to make sure that it isn't, in her words, coloring outside the lines in terms of what happens after March 21st. Either way, it looks like we'll have to wait another couple of weeks before we see exactly what the town of Port Hawkesbury and the municipality of Richmond County have planned in terms of vaccination policies for their employees and how public meetings will be carried out once restrictions are lifted later in March. Now, as we've noted in the first few minutes of this week's Telile 24/7, restrictions regarding COVID-19, gathering limits, and social distancing are starting to lift all the way around the province in preparation for a complete lifting of all restrictions by March 21st. This week, Nova Scotia entered Phase 2 of the Houston government's reopening strategy, and we thought it might be a good idea to speak to a cabinet minister in the Tim Houston government about what he feels about how the restriction lifting is going. So let's speak for just a moment with Greg Morrow, Nova Scotia's Minister of Agriculture and the PC MLA for Guysborough-Tracadie.
The Premier was very honest with people during the campaign that he would follow the guidance of public health since they're the experts in these things. And I'd say the same thing when people would ask me what our government would do. And I mean, we've done that. Full credit to Premier McNeil and Premier Rankin before Premier Houston that they've done the same thing and kept Nova Scotia in a very safe place during very uncertain times. And our current premier has continued to do that, and now that the epidemiology suggests that it is time that we move forward and live with COVID, that's what we're doing.
What's your personal reaction as Greg Morrow, not the MLA and not the PC cabinet minister, but Greg Morrow the person, as to the fact that these restrictions are being lifted so quickly and we could be coming around the turn to seeing a full reopening of Nova Scotia?
It makes me feel good. I had an event with the Antigonish Chamber of Commerce on Friday, and I talked a bit about this, that, we've missed out on a lot over the last couple of years. Personally, I don't like wearing a mask, but I do it because it's for the greater good, and I'm happy to move forward. I think. You never want to diminish the loss of life. That's real. That's happened over the last 2 years. Long COVID is something that, we don't know a whole lot about just yet, that we're going to find out. But, I think about what we've sacrificed, what our business owners have sacrificed, what our children have sacrificed. For 2 years, our kids haven't gone to hockey tournaments. They haven't had those experiences. You have to decide what grandparent might get in to see them play that weekend. Dance recitals. Antigonish Highland Games, for example. Stuff like this that makes a big difference to a community that hasn't happened. So I'm very much looking forward to what comes next.
One more question on this topic, Greg. You campaigned last summer during the provincial election at a time when many pandemic restrictions were still in place. Do you get the sense that as the restrictions start to disappear, you're going to be getting the chance to get to know your riding and the people in it all over again in a way that you didn't necessarily have the opportunity to do during the election campaign last summer?
Yeah, I hope so. I think we had a summer election campaign, and that helped a lot for knocking on doors and going to see people, because you could stay on the doorstep, and some people would, they might ask you to come inside, and you'd say, well, no, I'll stay outside. I'm happy doing that. But you also missed the events that go along with the summer season and all the great festivities that go on through the summer that you couldn't take part of. But no, I think for the most part, I had a good chance to meet people. I knocked on a lot of doors over the summer, and I'm looking forward to once we get into some nicer weather, going another round through the constituency and knocking on some more doors and just reintroducing myself to people that just to check in after less than a year on the job, and some people that I might have missed when I was around through the first time.
We'll hear more from Guysborough-Tracadie MLA Greg Morrow in just a moment. But right now, we want to take you back to Port Hawkesbury, where some extensive discussions have been taking place in terms of safety for pedestrians, bicycle users, and vehicle users around the town. We've known for the past 3 years that the lane alignment along Reeves Street has been different thanks to the Destination Reeves Street project. And as well, we're learning that Bicycle Nova Scotia wants to put up some walkways and some special lanes in different parts of Port Hawkesbury to be able to make things safer and more pleasant for cyclists and pedestrians alike. So let's check in with the discussion that happened at the most recent regular meeting of Port Hawkesbury Town Council and begin with a little background about the Destination Reeves Street project.
Launched in 2019 as a provincial pilot project, Destination Reeves Street realigned 4 lanes of traffic into 3, with several two-way turning lanes near the entrances and exits to prominent businesses along a 1-kilometer stretch of Reeves Street, which is owned by the Provincial Department of Public Works. At last week's regular meeting of Port Hawkesbury Town Council, councillors were asked to vote on a proposal from Nova Scotia's Department of Public Works to cost-share a survey that would gather opinions of town residents and commercial business owners about the effectiveness of Destination Reeves Street. The plan would see the province picking up 3/4 of the survey's $20,000 price tag, with the town responsible for the remaining $5,000. However, Port Hawkesbury Town Councillors Mark McIver and Hughie McDougall were skeptical about the accuracy of a survey taken in the coming weeks. Both insisted that such a survey take place after the upcoming summer, which often sees the heaviest traffic along Reeves Street due to warm weather tourism. McDougall declared that traffic counts over the past 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic were inaccurate because of the reduction of travel across Nova Scotia, and he claimed that a survey shouldn't be conducted under this framework. As well, McIver insisted that another traffic count be carried out before the final survey results were sent in to the Department of Public Works, as he insisted that the project shouldn't be seen as complete before this final traffic count is carried out. However, Port Hawkesbury CAO Terry Doyle and Deputy Mayor Jason Aucoin both insisted that the 2021 summer traffic was consistent with pre-pandemic uses of Reeves Street. Deputy Mayor Aucoin went a step further and predicted that the forthcoming removal of COVID-19 restrictions in Nova Scotia will result in double the traffic on Port Hawkesbury's main street this summer, further muddying the final picture to be presented to the province as to the success of Destination Reeves Street. In the end, councillors voted 3-1 to support the survey, with McDougall registering the only nay vote, but they voted unanimously on an amendment to that survey motion, which called on the Public Works Department to carry out one more traffic count this summer and make a presentation to council in September before the town files its final report on the pilot project this fall. Whether the province agrees to that timeline remains to be seen, but either way, it looks like Port Hawkesbury is far from finished in terms of the realignment of Reeves Street and its effectiveness in keeping drivers safe. One final note on Destination Reeves Street: when it was first conceived prior to a vote by council to proceed with the project in 2019, the Reeves Street lane realignment originally included bike lanes. However, some town councillors felt that they wouldn't be able to proceed with supporting the project if bike lanes were included, so that aspect was left out of the lane realignment that took place 3 years ago. However, Bicycle Nova Scotia is now working with the town to develop walkways and safe bicycle paths that could be used in different parts of Port Hawkesbury, including Granville Street, Old Sydney Road, and Queen Street. Last Tuesday's virtual meeting of Port Hawkesbury Town Council opened with a presentation by Megan Doucette of Bicycle Nova Scotia, who pointed out that if her group is successful at securing federal and provincial funding to go with active transportation funding provided by the town, there could be developments as soon as 2023-24. And once this first round of bicycle-friendly improvements is carried out at different parts of the town, Doucette feels that these kinds of improvements could also happen in places like Reeves Street, Tamarack Drive, and McIntosh Avenue. So, 3 years after bicycle lanes were left out of the Destination Reeves Street project, it looks like we might not have to wait that much longer to see bicycle lanes pop up as a possibility for the main thoroughfare heading through Port Hawkesbury. In Port Hawkesbury for Telile 24/7, I'm Adam Cooke.
And now, as promised, we return to our conversation with PC MLA and Minister of Agriculture, Greg Morrow. Just a year ago, he was still the news director for 1015 The Hawk, giving news updates and sports and weather in the morning segments. But now, Morrow has a whole lot of different tasks on his plate, not just as a cabinet minister in the Tim Houston PC government, but as the MLA for a riding that takes in the eastern half of Antigonish County and the entirety of Guysborough County. How is he doing under all of this? Well, I caught up with Greg Morrow just a few days ago at the Mulgrave Heritage Museum to ask him these questions.
Joining us here at the Mulgrave Heritage Museum, we're pleased to welcome back to Telile 24/7 the MLA for Guysborough-Tracadie and Nova Scotia's Minister of Agriculture, Greg Morrow. Greg, thanks for making time for us today.
Thanks for having me, Adam, and thanks to the folks at the Mulgrave Heritage Museum for having us.
We certainly appreciate them providing the space after you had a meeting with some local folks here, and that helps to drive home why we wanted to speak to you today. Not only were you sworn in as the MLA for Guysborough-Tracadie last August after the provincial election, but you were also sworn in on the same day as Nova Scotia's Minister of Agriculture. So essentially, how have the last 6 months been learning how to do these two new jobs?
I'll tell you, a saying that I never heard until I came into this position was drinking from the fire hose, and that's that's certainly apt. That's really what it was. The first few months have been a real whirlwind, but it's been good. It's there's been a lot of learning, and not just as an MLA, but as a cabinet minister. I had some of my colleagues who were previous MLAs who said, I can't imagine doing what. There's 6 of us that are first-time MLAs and new cabinet ministers, and they say, I don't know how you guys do what you've done. It's one thing to come on as an MLA, but then to take on the role of a cabinet minister as well. It can be daunting, and it's there have been stressful times for sure, but it's been a real good experience overall, and appreciated the faith that the Premier had in me to put me in the position, and it's been a lot of fun overall. It's a great portfolio. There's a lot to learn, but lots of willing partners who have been there to help me along the way.
You mentioned the new MLAs like yourself that have become cabinet ministers. One of them is another Strait Area MLA, Michelle Thompson, the Minister of Health. Of course, 2 people that you've come to know from your years working at 1015 The Hawk in the news division are now members of the Tim Houston caucus, one of them with a very important cabinet role, Alan McMaster from Inverness, the finance minister and deputy premier. You also have first-time Richmond MLA Trevor Boudreau, a longtime Port Hawkesbury town councillor, joining you in the Houston caucus as well. So can you tell me a bit about what it's like to work with all these familiar faces within the Strait Area caucus of the PC government, and also to have that kind of common ground as you're trying to advance the interests of this area?
Yeah, it's been great to have that smaller team within the team, and we talked about that when we were on 24/7 just after the election, about how this is the first time for the 4 Quad County MLAs have been in the governing party since 1998. And that's been great. We have someone like Alan who's been around as an MLA for many years that we can lean on for help and his experience in our new roles. And we've had lots of good meetings with different folks around the Quad Counties, industry, and those sorts of things who kind of want to bend our ear and see how we can help with what they're putting forward.
Are there any Strait Area positions that the 4 local PC MLAs are advancing together, or do you get together regularly to talk about these types of things with local residents? How is that all coming together in terms of common ground?
For sure, lots of different things. We had a meeting with some volunteer firefighters from the Quad Counties back in the fall at the Port Hastings Fire Department, and came away with a list of sort of action items, and we've been keeping in touch with them and our cabinet colleagues to find out how we can address their issues. A lot of industry-related stuff, a big push in the area for offshore wind, so we've been involved in that. So there's a number of different files that we've been handling together.
The last time you and I talked for Telile 24/7, just after your election victory last summer, you told me that you were inspired to run for the PC party of Tim Houston because the press releases he sent you as a member of the media were often more constructive and optimistic than you would expect from the typical opposition leader. Has he carried that position over to government? What's it been like working with Tim Houston in caucus and in cabinet?
Yeah, absolutely he has. He used the word solutions a lot, and that's he considers himself a solutionist. He says that his family tells him it's a made-up word, but he says it's real. And in our mandate letters as cabinet ministers, he talked about all of us being solutionists, and I see that every day. When we have a caucus meeting or a cabinet meeting, and some issue comes up, I don't know, or he wants to find a solution right away. How can we make this work, and how can we make it work quick for the betterment of Nova Scotians? So that very much is carried over into the new government.
A big reason we wanted to talk to you, Greg, is because this is the first opportunity we've had to speak to you as Nova Scotia's Minister of Agriculture. So I wanted to ask you, why do you feel you were chosen for this position by Premier Houston, and how are you approaching it as you settle into it?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's one that people have asked and people wonder about, I think. It's my background in this area is pretty well known to most people. I'm a broadcaster, and it might not seem to fit with the agricultural portfolio, but the way I look at it is the Premier kind of tasked me with this one because, again, based on my background, I'm someone that is comfortable going and talking to people. I'm not shy to go forward and ask people questions. And I think that's a big part of it with the department, is going and meeting with farmers one-on-one and asking them, hey, how's this working for you? How is the department working? What can we do better to help you? Those sorts of questions. So in that way, it's I think it's a natural fit. You could have someone with more of a background, but maybe they come in with these preconceived ideas about how things should work. I've told people that I'm about as when I started out, I was about as a blank slate as you're going to get, with no personal biases or anything like that, and that I can come in and learn and have a fresh set of eyes, look at every issue.
Now, as you mentioned, some people might be surprised and look at you and say, well, he's a journalist, not a farmer. But your journalism background has enabled you to take a lot of information in all at once, absorb that, and then sort it out so it makes sense to the general public. And I'm just wondering if that's the case with your role as agriculture minister, that you're learning on the job, but also taking in a lot of information and detail and helping it make sense to the agriculture stakeholders that you meet with on a regular basis.
Absolutely, yeah. It's we talked about it earlier in the program that there's a lot to learn when you're a new MLA and a first-time cabinet minister, and that processing of information is very important. One thing I am grateful for is great staff in the department. They've been there to help me along and help me through the learning process and let me know what they see as working. And as I talk to farmers and people in the industry, find out that they have some pretty good relationships already established with staff in my department, and it's just a matter of continuing on with those relationships for me.
So what kind of agriculture files are you working on right now that are impacting the local area in addition to the province, looking at places like Guysborough and Antigonish counties in your own riding, but also Inverness County and other parts of Cape Breton Island?
So right now, I think one of the biggest things we're looking at in general, it was laid out in my mandate letter from the Premier. So every time there's a cabinet shuffle or there's a new cabinet, the Premier gives you a mandate letter with a list of goals that he wants to see. So the main item in my mandate letter is to have 20% local food consumption by the year 2030. So that's an ambitious goal. That's something that I and the department have been working on since we've got the mandate, really. And one of the big keys is establishing that metric, finding out where we are right now. And we don't really know that. We're, getting closer to a number. I've heard different numbers thrown out there. But it is a matter of starting out by finding out where we are. I mean, are we at 5%? Maybe we're already at 23. We don't know. So we have to find out. And then once we do, it's finding ways to increase that local consumption, whether and a big part of that is our institutions we're looking at. So that would, our provincial hospitals, our correctional facilities, schools, advanced education, community services, all those departments. So we're leading a cross-departmental commission sort of on ways all the different departments can work together to help my department reach that goal.
These benchmarks for local food production are timely as we look to the development of community gardens in different parts of Cape Breton Island, but also the efforts of folks like the Cape Breton Food Hub. Are you and your department putting a high priority on discussions with groups like the Food Hub to be able to develop local food and be able to make those benchmarks that you spoke about earlier?
Absolutely, yeah. Those are all things we're looking at, and it starts from a community approach for sure. I know the MLA Keith Bain, who's a speaker, he's reached out to me about this one. Community pastures is another big important one that we're looking at, and looking at possible additions to, working with the different groups to making sure that they have the infrastructure in place that they need to help with those goals. So yeah, those are all things we're looking at as we move toward that 20% goal by 2030.
Greg, earlier in this interview, we were talking about your PC cabinet colleague from just across the causeway, Alan McMaster of Inverness. Of course, he is now putting the finishing touches on his first budget as Nova Scotia's new finance minister. But are there any special requests that you're bringing to Minister McMaster on behalf of the people of Guysborough-Tracadie?
Yeah, Minister McMaster is very busy these days getting the budget together, and we talked a bit earlier about being a first-time MLA and cabinet minister at the same time, but one thing I took note of early on is that we're all first-time cabinet ministers in this government, so we've all, had a learning curve, and it's, we've had a lot to take on, and no one more so than Minister McMaster, and he's in his busy stretch right now. So I think one of the big things is, as you could probably imagine, is roads. There are a number of areas that need work, and that's one thing that I saw for myself in the summer campaign, and I continue to see, and I continue to hear about from people who reach out to the office. A lot of roads, not just in this constituency, but right across the province, need work. And I've had lots of conversations with the local public works crew in Antigonish, and also with the minister and the deputy minister in Halifax. And the deputy minister, half joking, said, "Well, if you could put a plug into your cabinet colleague, the Minister of Finance, for a little more money, we could do a lot more." So I think that's top of mind for people, not just in Guysborough-Tracadie, but right across the province, is roads.
As we talk about road work, that leads me to a question about a big decision made by Nova Scotia's Department of Public Works that will impact a major stretch of highway through your riding. There are upgrades coming to the intersection of Highway 104 in Ald's Cove, just across from the Irving Big Stop, to the Cape Hill Road, which leads people up the hill towards Mulgrave. You've been pushing for these upgrades for a while, so have many people around here. Your thoughts on finally seeing some action on this particular intersection?
Yeah, it feels great. It's something that I heard loud and clear. I was going to say in the summer election campaign, but even before that, my time as a local broadcaster, those concerns were at the forefront, and getting into politics and becoming elected official, they only increased. And you certainly don't want a situation where it keeps getting put off, and somebody has to die or lose their life for something to change or for something to happen. So I full credit to Town Council in Mulgrave, the area councillor Harris McNamara for District 9. They've been key in pushing this forward to me, and I've brought it forward to my cabinet colleague, and just very happy to see it added to the plan. It wasn't there before we came into government, and now it is. And I know that a lot of people have been breathing a sigh of relief that it's going to be taking place in the upcoming construction season.
We're winding down this interview, Greg, and as we mentioned earlier, it's been a whirlwind 6 months for you, not only being elected as an MLA for Guysborough-Tracadie, but also being named to cabinet as Agriculture Minister. What keeps you on an even keel and keeps you calm during times like this, when you know that your hours are not your own? You could be working late into the night at any given moment. What keeps you going during these times?
That's a great question. Family's number one. We've talked about that plenty of times, Adam. That coming home at the end of the day and seeing my kids and my wife is that's number one for sure. One thing that I didn't really expect, starting in, I guess it was the end of April, start of May, when we got into the nomination process, and then won the nomination, and there was a lot to do there in between that and the election. And then first thing, you're in the election, and you're just flat out every day. You're going every day, knocking on doors for 12, 14 hours. Then you win the election. You're a new MLA, fortunate to have a seat at the cabinet table, so there was a lot there. I think it was the second or third week in September, I got to go out to my daughter's hockey practice. And what a great feeling just to be on the ice and feel the cold air and see all the girls that they play with. And it just really, it was the most at ease I felt in a number of months, just to be out there with them and to have someone else looking after it, doing the plan. I was just there to help and see the girls and see their smiles. And it was the most at ease I felt in a long time. That was great.
We're all looking for that little piece of normalcy right now, so we're glad you've been able to find yours. We've covered a lot of ground here, Greg, as I thought we might over the last few minutes. Did you want to add anything else here?
No, just that I just as I said in the summer that I appreciate everybody's support, and now that we're a few months into it, I certainly appreciate people's patience. People reach out and we try to find solutions to their issues. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But people have been good just to help me along as I'm new in this process and I'm still learning. And I think for the most part they understand that, and they've been patient and have given me a chance to kind of get my feet under me and have been willing to work together to get things accomplished.
Well, we know, Greg, that yours is a busy schedule, so we appreciate you taking some time after doing what an MLA does and meeting with people here locally to speak with us here on Telile 24/7.
Thanks, Adam. Always happy to be here on Telile 24/7.
And now an update on an issue that we brought to you just a couple of weeks ago here on Telile 24/7 regarding a medical clinic in eastern Richmond County asking Municipal Council for emergency funding. This is the second year in a row that the Dr. William B. Kingston Memorial Health Centre in Lordways has requested emergency funding to deal with a budget shortfall that resulted from the recent departure of one of the physicians serving the Kingston Clinic. However, this time around, the Kingston Centre is also asking if Richmond County can consider providing emergency funding on a semi-regular basis through the year, depending on whether there are monthly budget shortfalls. So here's how that discussion went when it came back to the table at last week's regular meeting of Richmond Municipal Council.
We certainly could provide them with funding if that's council's choice. However, to evaluate the financials on a monthly basis would be the logical way to do it if in fact they wanted to do it based on a deficit, and provide them with that through a motion of council for the prior month's evaluation. And the realization there, of course, is that would be a lot of work on a monthly basis. So there is another option that we could evaluate them during the budget process and provide them with funding as we do with other healthcare organizations as essentially a flat amount that we so choose, through our negotiations during budget. And of course, that too would be left up to council, whether or not they'd want to do it that way. So it's essentially up to you folks, the choice you want to make, and it's up to you folks how much you want to give. Because right now we don't know exactly how much to provide them with on a monthly basis, and we're in March, so our current budget is to the end of March, and then we could follow in with the budgeted amount for the 2022-2023 year through budget deliberations.
Unless I'm missing something, I feel like they would fall under type 4 grants as well. I'm not, and maybe I'm missing something there, but I'm just wondering why they wouldn't have applied under the type 4 grants.
I think, the grants we've tended to avoid any kind of operational support in those. And we're primarily funding project related kind of work. So that's likely, I think that's probably why we didn't push it in that direction or kind of discuss it in that context. That being said, even outside the grant structure, we typically don't provide operational funding, so this is an unusual situation for sure. Councillor Brent Sampson?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know they've looked into other funding options, even like, with lottery licenses or fundraising and so on, and there's a lot of things that are restricted that for maybe special projects or whatever, but can't go to day-to-day operational. And this is part of the problem they're finding themselves in. There are some ways they could raise money, let's say, for maybe a specific project or something, but that doesn't really help on the day-to-day operations. I think probably referring it to budget would be a good idea, just because it would give us a better time to evaluate things and how we could go forward based on, as the CIO said, we do provide funding to, several other medical facilities, not necessarily just within the county, and maybe we could look at this as well, or decide, where we want to target our funding that way.
Yeah, I recognize it would definitely be to be providing that kind of financial analysis on a monthly basis. I think we want to try to avoid that for sure.
In the end, Richmond councillors voted unanimously to send the request of the Dr. William B. Kingston Memorial Health Centre back to the county's budget deliberations.
This past weekend, the Nova Scotia Liberal Party held its annual general meeting in conjunction with the Liberal Party of Canada. And one of the topics of discussion that generated some enthusiastic talk among the delegates taking part was the leadership race that has resulted with the Nova Scotia wing of the party since the resignation announcement by former Premier Ian Rankin earlier this winter. Zach Churchill, a longtime cabinet minister in the Stephen McNeil government with many portfolios to his name, is the second candidate to announce that he's running. And we're pleased to bring you an interview right now with the first declared candidate. She was first elected this past August to the riding of Preston. She is Angela Simmonds, and we're going to talk to her right now.
And joining us now on Telile 24/7 is the Liberal MLA for Preston and the first declared candidate for the party's leadership. She is Angela Simmonds. Angela, welcome to Telile 24/7 today.
Yeah, Adam, thank you for having me. I was looking forward to it. I'm excited. I met with Richie Mann yesterday, actually, who talked very highly of you and said what a great guy you were. So I was looking forward to actually meeting you, put a face to the name.
Richie Mann is a blast from the past from my own journalism career, and very well known to the people here in our main viewing audience of Richmond County. So that's a good name to drop right there in terms of getting things started and getting your traction in this neck of the woods. Yeah. So let me ask you, first of all, just how you feel your campaign is going for the Liberal Party leadership. You launched it just a couple of months ago. You were right off the ground running. How do you feel it's gone, and how do you feel people are responding to you?
It's going great. I'm getting excellent feedback. We got great momentum. I feel awesome with my team. We keep joining people. People keep wanting to be part of it. And, really what's been exciting is going out and meeting people and traveling. So, we're building momentum, and I'm having fun doing this.
All right. Always important to have a little bit of enjoyment as you head into a campaign like this.
Yeah.
What made you decide to run for the leadership? And, we asked this knowing that you made the decision not all that long ago to run for provincial politics in the first place. You were elected as the Liberal candidate in Preston just this past August. So what made you feel that you could be the person to lead the Liberal Party right now, and that you were willing to make that commitment over the next few months of the campaign and possibly the next few years?
We need a courageous leader, and we need someone who's committed to change, committed to renewing this party. And honestly, for me, I want to see everyone have a fair and equal opportunity within this province. And, you mentioned being new as an MLA, and, I want to do good work. I want to help people, and that's always what I've wanted. And not only am I new and can stand up in the legislature and be able to articulate and advocate for folks, but I've been doing that my entire life. I have had opportunities to create real change and substantive equality for folks, to make sure that they're taking part. I know I don't stand up in the legislature just by talking to people, but I have a lived experience of understanding the economic barriers that we're facing. Are we going to pay a bill or buy groceries? Are we going to be able to send our children or our families off to participate in extracurricular activities, or pay our phone bill? And we know the Sobeys and superstores, these stores are bare, and things are going up, and it's increased finances. So I understand the importance of making sure that we are being prepared and economically being sustained in this province. And so I want to help people get there.
Now, it's interesting, you spoke about overcoming barriers, and of course,
Yeah.
we'll speak a little more to that very specific idea. But one thing that you actually have in common in terms of your own constituency and about representation for those
Yeah.
who don't necessarily get that representation is that, like Richmond, Preston got its riding back last election. For many years, it had been an expanded riding. The Dexter government in 2012 decided to do away with boundaries for protected ridings, such as the Acadian ridings here and Preston as well. So, do you feel that you can connect with people not just in these Acadian ridings, but all over the province because you know what it's like from a constituency perspective to not be able to have that particular perspective and the community perspective reflected in the House of Assembly in Nova Scotia?
Yeah, great point. That's exactly how I feel. I feel that, again, I don't just talk about it in the abstract. I talk about these issues and can relate, even particular for Richmond. You're right. To have these protected ridings be back says something to Nova Scotia that we are about change, and says something to the communities that and voices who've been left out are now being brought to the forefront. That our experiences, I'll give an example of even internet in where I'm sitting. It took me almost a year to get internet, but my neighbor, just down the street had it. These are, I'm sure, issues that Richmond is facing, even though, not from there. I completely understand how important it is for these protected ridings. And I do feel that that's what will make me be able to connect with people because I have such an experience and knowledge of actually living and then learning and then making the right changes.
What's your sense of the overall Strait of Canso and that part of Nova Scotia now that we're speaking of local communities and local issues? Obviously, you want to represent the whole province, but from the outside looking in, do you get a sense that there are some parts of life in the Strait area that you'd really like to tackle should you become the Liberal leader?
You're absolutely right. I'm not from Cape Breton, we know, but I can definitely tell you that, one of the first friendships that I made was Derek Mumbercat, who's a great friend of mine. I have a lot of respect for him. And then also with Fred Telile, who we know was actually running because he knew the issues and could relate, and now is working with me. One of my first conversations was with Mayor McDougall. I might not be from there, but I'm definitely talking to the right people. And Mike Calloway, who I met actually while we were on the Electoral Boundaries Commission. So we have history, and I'm working with him and chatting with his team. And, in particular, when we think about the Causeway, we know we want people to get home safely. We don't want to have to worry about traveling roads that are not feasible for travel, and worrying about family getting home. So those are the things that I think we need to think about. Infrastructure, and definitely are one of the areas that I will continue to keep talking to folks in particular your area to make sure that we can address it together. That's one of the things that I want to do is not come to Cape Breton or come to Richmond and say I have the plan. I want to come and say, what is the plan with you? Tell me what you need so that I can advocate and we can prepare and work together on this.
Now, picking up on that point of being able to work with people and have them bring their concerns to you, you mentioned renewal for the Liberal Party of Nova Scotia. And of course, this is a time at which the party is taking a deep inward look at itself. It went into the summer election last year, leading in the polls, lost its majority, lost government after 8 years. Recent party review came out, and the document was not kind to those organizing this election campaign. So, in light of all that, what do you do as Liberal leader, and even just now as a leadership candidate, to be able to heal those wounds and to build on the renewal of the party? Basically, what direction are you hoping to take the party in to be able to avoid the mistakes that were made last summer?
Senator Cowan, who's my campaign chair, did a phenomenal report. We know it was difficult for folks to hear, but sometimes that's how we need to move forward. The truth hurts. And right now, that's what I'm doing is paying attention. We heard from over 300 people in that renewal about the disconnect and about rebuilding. And that's where my focus will be in terms of having this blueprint in front of me to be able to first of all, build the association so that we can be ready for an election. We know that there's many associations in ridings that are unheld and held who have not been supported and unfortunately have not been heard. And so that's a priority for me, is to make sure that I'm not only listening, but building relationships so that people feel validated. And, we can't run this party. We can't get back to government without our volunteers. We need our volunteers. I will need volunteers. I will need the support of all of the members of the party. And I want that. I want to build a relationship. So that for me, this has been a blessing. And I look forward to implementing and doing the recommendations out of the report.
So far, there's been only one other declared candidate for the Liberal leadership race. That is former Cabinet Minister of many portfolios, Zach Churchill, the MLA for Yarmouth. He has stated in his campaign that he is not someone who would be getting on-the-job training. He is ready to be leader and to be premier right now. How do you respond to that approach by Mr. Churchill? And how do you feel that you're offering an approach that can lead the party to victory quickly and resoundingly?
Membership has a huge choice to make. It's up to them, and I think we heard it with the renewal report. Memberships is will have two people in front of them with distinct experience and qualities. My experience, again, as I've mentioned, I've had a small business and know what it's like to balance priorities. Have been in the legislature and have put forward legislation that will be groundbreaking. Have put forward anti-discrimination and racism a bill that has never been done in this province before. So I've had several opportunities to work and build relationships, and that's what I've done. I've taken opportunities to work with people and build their trust. And as a leader, I want to lead and have led, and leadership requires having people behind them, having people beside them who understand the complexities. And for me, it really is about, getting to know membership and making sure that they're here and heard and building this platform with me. And, being a lawyer and a mom is a distinct advantage in and of itself, of making sure that I'm able to balance some priorities and be heard. And I will bring all of these qualities to the leadership and would look forward to being the leader of this political party.
You brought up the anti-discrimination legislation that you've introduced in the House just recently, and I want to spend a little bit of time speaking to that side of things and to the importance of diversity in leadership. In preparing for this interview, I realized that it's been just over 25 years since we've seen a person of color, male or female, running for the leadership of a major party in Nova Scotia. That would be Yvonne Atwell running for the NDP against Robert Chisholm in 1996, and she was just recently recognized in Province House as the first Black MLA in Nova Scotia. So can you tell me a little bit about the importance of providing that voice for those who feel they may be underrepresented in Nova Scotia politics, and how you feel you're approaching this as you run for the Liberal leadership at this time?
There's been a lot of people left out of circles. And in the legislature, one of the things that our party has done is recognized the diversity of candidates that have come forward. I mean, we have Ronnie LeBlanc, Laura Lee Nickel, both with Acadian background. We still are seeing gaps for sure, but Ali is from a Muslim community. We have Rafa, who is an immigrant. And so all of these qualities of people who are already, within our party will only have an opportunity. For me, it's important to make sure that people's experiences are brought to the forefront and feel welcomed. And I've said this before, diversity is something that we have in this province. And what we need to do is include people to feel welcomed. And I'm looking forward, and that will be a priority, is to make people from all circles, all communities, feel like they are part of a family, part of a party that they might not have been welcomed into before. And I think for us, that's a path forward that I'm looking forward to leading.
Now, just a couple of weeks ago on Telile 24/7, Angela, we spoke to Claudia Chender, who was the first declared candidate for the leadership race for the NDP. And one of the things we talked about is that shortly after she announced, you tweeted on your Twitter feed how excited you were that she was taking the task on. And it really struck me that one person running for the leadership of a major party would congratulate another in this way. Can you speak to why you put that message of support out for Claudia Chender and how you feel that the importance of bringing women to leadership roles goes across party lines and could be better served if we wind up in just a few months possibly having two women leading two major parties in Nova Scotia?
Yeah, Adam, thank you for noticing and acknowledging that. That's, I did it because that's who I am. I don't want any sort of negative relationships. I think it's important that we congratulate folks when they do good work, and having more women step up in these leadership roles is amazing. I look forward to working with all people in different parties, and for me, it's important that we continue to inspire. And if right now I believe she's the only one in her leadership run, and if I'm successful, which I hope I will be, it'll be a great opportunity to see the two of us stand and raise issues that maybe have not been able to be raised before. And inspire young people and all people to be step up in leadership positions who maybe not have seen themselves. And I think it's important that we rise as political leaders. People are watching us and we need to lead. And I think we're tired of politicians going back and forth and arguing and saying someone didn't do this and didn't do that. That gets us nowhere. We need to be action with solutions, and that's what I'm about. And I wanted to extend congratulations and have all the respect when other women can step up and feel supported to lead.
Mhm. You mentioned Mayor Amanda McDougall of CBRM, and I believe you might know now that the eastern half of Cape Breton Island has entirely female leaders. Amanda Mumbercat, the warden of Richmond County, and Brenda Chisholm-Beaton here in Port Hawkesbury. So not only are you finding female leaders in strong positions in your neck of the woods, but they're happening in different parts of the province too. So hopefully that will bring you some inspiration as you're reaching out to our part of the province during your leadership campaign.
It actually does. And when I met with Richie yesterday, he mentioned Mrs. Mumbercat. And so I hope to reach out, and it's inspiring. I'm excited. There's a real hope. That's what I feel like we are inspiring, and what we're bringing people is the hope of what's next, the hope of what we can do together. And I look forward to chatting with so many more. I'm actually going to be coming back down to Cape Breton in a couple of weeks. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm very excited.
And just to wrap things up here, Angela, I've been asking this of a lot of elected officials lately. This is not an easy time to be an elected official. It rarely is. But what keeps you on an even keel as you go about your daily business as the MLA for Preston, but especially now that you've taken on this campaign to try to run for the Liberal leadership? What is keeping you going and what is keeping you balanced in this time?
Adam, my family, they're at the core of who I am. And their support, shows up in so many different ways. Just last week, I had a long day. It was a really long day, and my daughter just showed up with their dog puppy, and she was like, "I just want to stop by and say hi." But it's those kind of things, and I'm very much grounded in my faith. And I have an inner circle where I can just shut it off and be myself. And so I will say it is my family that definitely grounds me, my husband and my children. And I have a beautiful grandson who at any given moment can make me smile. So I'm thrilled.
Well, that's marvelous. I'm glad to hear that's the case.
Yeah.
We have covered a lot of ground in a short time, Angela, as I thought we might. Did you want to add anything else before we wrap up this interview here?
Sure. You know what I want to say? If there's that famous quote, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, it's time to fix it. It's time for some change. And I am that change. I want to be that voice of change, and I want to work with you. And so please, when I'm down there or when I'm not, reach out to me, and I want to be able to chat with you and build relationships.
Well, we look forward to continuing our relationship with you here at Telile Community Television. And in the meantime, Angela Simmonds, thank you so much for giving me some time here today. It's been a pleasure to have you on Telile 24/7.
Thank you, Adam, for having me. I look forward to meeting you in person when I'm down there.
All right. Hopefully that won't take too much longer. We're almost there. Angela Simmonds is the MLA for Preston, and she is running for the leadership of the Liberal Party of Nova Scotia. Stay tuned for more of Telile 24/7 in just a moment.
Stay tuned later in the show as Preston MLA and Liberal leadership candidate Angela Simmonds plays the Telile 24/7 Fast 5 game with us. But right now, we're going to take you back to Richmond's council table one more time for a discussion on whether bilingual signage can come forward in different parts of the county. Now, we already have bilingual signage in Gaelic and in Mi'kmaq, but this time around, local officials are pressing for French-English signage to be posted in different parts of the county. So let's give a listen to how that discussion went at last week's regular meeting of Richmond Municipal Council.
Well, it was definitely last year we had accepted the request of the province to have bilingual signs installed in our county, and I had drafted a letter to Minister Diab to that effect at the time. But then following an update and an inquiry that I received from Josette Marchand at La Picasse, she found out that other communities were moving forward, but it didn't look like Richmond was included. But when she looked into the matter, she found that organizations like La Picasse in other municipalities like Clare had submitted formal requests to be part of the program as well. So I wrote a follow-up letter to the current minister because, of course, we did have a change in government. I wrote a letter to Minister Masland of Public Works to reconfirm our desire to accept the province's offer to have those signs, and provided a copy of that to Ms. Marchand, and she included both letters in a formal request from La Picasse as the Acadian cultural organization to participate in the program with Public Works. And so the province is now at this stage asking us to determine the villages or regions where we would not want to have bilingual stop signs. So our previous letter, the original to Minister Diab, and even the one I wrote to Minister Masland, aligned with our motion, which was to have English signs replaced with bilingual signs on provincial roads located in Richmond at no cost to us, with the exception of any current signs that are already bilingual in English Mi'kmaq. So I guess at this point would wonder from council, are there any other exceptions in terms of areas where you feel it would not be appropriate to have those bilingual signs installed?
I'm not sure, maybe the further eastern end of District 5, more Scottish heritage probably there than French on the eastern end of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say if I drove out Rocky Bayside, they would probably prefer if I could put it in a different angle. But we all have to understand that it's not about, it's just about making our signage better, not about decreasing it. So we already have them in English, and adding the French is just an added for our tourists and everybody else. So it's not like we're adding harm to it.
Okay, thank you.
And we are recognized as a bilingual county, so why not go forward with the bilingual signs?
Yeah, it's correct. We are designated Acadian riding.
Councillor Digdon, depending who you talk to, like you say, Al Madame is looked at as Il Madame. So, all Al Madame should, like I say, we should have bilingual signs in as many places we can for sure on this island and in Richmond County.
So Councillor Brent Sampson, just to follow up on your comment about sort of the eastern end of District 5, do you think it would be inappropriate to have the bilingual signage out that way? I'm
not sure. I guess if the rest of the county, even out, I'm thinking out, like even, I don't know what Deputy Warden's thoughts are, like Dundee and that area, or even Point Tupper and so on, right? But maybe it's just as well do the whole county.
My thought was to do the whole county. The main reason when we talked about doing it was because we are a bilingual, designated as a bilingual as an Acadian community. So I feel it should be everywhere, even though it may not be necessarily applicable. I think it is applicable to the county as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Probably, yeah, if we start trying to figure every little community that doesn't want it, or does or doesn't, and so on, and that will just get too deep into the weeds. It's kind of an all or nothing.
Yeah, I think I would have to agree. I do think, as long as we continue to make the point that if there are bilingual English Mi'kmaq signs, we definitely would not want those replaced, or removed. But I think I think you're right, Councillor. It would be getting into a lot of weeds trying to figure out, and it's I guess from my perspective, it's really not about identifying a specific community within Richmond as Acadian or French. I think it's more about just recognizing that we are a designated ridings.
The county as a whole, yes.
Yeah,
And again, there is no cost to the municipality.
there's no cost. Well, then I will follow back up with Josette to let her know that as long as there existing bilingual English Mi'kmaq signage, that we would have no exceptions, that it would be throughout the region.
And now, as I promised you earlier, here's the latest edition of the Telile 24/7 Fast 5 game, featuring Liberal leadership candidate and Preston MLA Angela Simmonds.
And joining us to play Telile 24/7's legendary Fast 5 game is the MLA for Preston, running for the Liberal leadership. She is Angela Simmonds. Angela, are you ready to play the Fast 5 today?
I'm ready as I'm gonna be.
All right, let's get her going. We start off quickly. Question number 1, coffee, tea, or neither?
Neither.
What
I
do you
have
do?
a green smoothie in the morning. So
Yeah,
a little
nicely
protein.
done. That's very refreshing first thing in the morning. Well
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Once the campaign is over, you can binge watch any TV show you want for a week. What is that TV show?
Love is Blind is this binge watch that I do. I watch to get away from the realities of today.
Okay, good. And sometimes we can need a break from reality. I guarantee
Yeah,
you that.
yeah.
Okay. Favorite sandwich?
Oh, egg
Egg sandwich.
sandwich. Yep.
Okay. Poached or fried?
Fried.
Oh, nicely
Yeah,
done.
with the yolk, with the little bit of yolk, it's perfect.
Ah, there we are. I love it that way myself, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
All right. You can be one animal for a day. What is that animal?
That's actually, I don't know, a puppy. I have a puppy. They're my kids love them to death, and they're treated like kids. So puppy.
And you know what? No one suspects the puppy.
Right. Right.
Puppies are innocent. No one suspects the puppy, so
Yeah,
anything can
right.
happen. And last question for you, Angela Simmonds. Would you rather be a forest or a tree?
I want to be a forest so that I can be with other things in the forest. So I
There
don't
you
like to
go.
stand solo. Yeah.
You want to have the Angela Simmonds tree party.
Yes, exactly.
hang.
There we go. Let's do that. When I'm down there, let's do that.
Hang with
Yeah.
the other trees. I like it. Good stuff. All right. See, that wasn't so hard. You did a great job.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. It was fun. Good way to end.
Yeah, exactly. Angela Simmonds is the MLA for Preston and the first declared candidate for the Liberal leadership of Nova Scotia. And she is also the latest volunteer of the Fast 5 here on Telile 24/7.
And that wraps up this week's edition of Telile 24/7. Thank you for tuning in, and a special thank you to my interview guests this week, Angela Simmonds and Greg Morrow. And a big thank you to the folks at the Mulgrave Heritage Centre for allowing me to interview Greg Morrow at their facility there earlier this week. And a big thank you to Nick Boudreau and Becky Bourinot for their production assistance on the studio filming for this week's edition of Telile 24/7. If you'd like to comment on what you've seen over the past hour, or you just have some ideas for a future show, by all means, please get in touch with me personally or with Telile Community Television here in Arishat. And don't forget to follow Telile on social media. For now, I'm Adam Cooke. Thanks once again for tuning in to Telile 24/7. I look forward to seeing you again next week with a brand new show. Bye for now.